Hey everybody, welcome back to Whistle Thicket. Tom here. I'm in the mountains of western North Carolina, about 3,000 feet. It's mid-March, I guess. I just did some splits. I installed a couple packages, and I'm back up to 10 hives, okay? But I'm about to feed a 1-to-1 sugar-water ratio. And what I like to do, if I'm feeding one hive, I like to feed them all. Because really, if you're feeding one hive, you shouldn't really be putting any honey supers on to start getting honey, because these larger hives could potentially rob out these weaker hives, especially when there's not a lot of nectar available. So if you look around in the background, most of the trees don't have leaves. Where I'm at, we've had our willow and maple have bloomed. I guess maybe they're still blooming a little bit. There's actually a Bradford pear that is not, it's an invasive species. I did cut one down, haven't cut that one down yet. But there's not a lot of nectar out right now. There's some dandelions maybe. But if you're feeding one, I like to feed them all, because I don't want to encourage robbing of my weak hives, because those are the ones I really want to build up right now. And I do like to use robber screens as much as I can. I don't have 10 of them, but I don't know, I have 7 or 8. I need to buy a few more. Robber screens are great to lower that entrance. If you think about it, most natural tree cavities aren't, 1.5 feet long by 1.5 inches tall, right? So having these robber entrance reducers helps a lot, because it gives these young hives less entrance to guard and to defend. And really, I should probably close this one and open the top, because the top is even smaller, and what happens is potential robbers have to travel down the hive instead of flying straight in. So I really need to flip those around in a minute. Can't really do it with one hand here. So we're going to be feeding 25 pounds of sugar. That may seem like a lot, but for 10 hives, that really isn't going to be that much. They're only going to get, right now, about half a gallon of sugar water, okay? So I have my honey bucket that I'm going to use to mix my 1-to-1 ratio. 4 pounds of sugar to 4 pounds of water is about a half a gallon of water. So 25 pounds of sugar is about 3 gallons of water, a little bit more. And I may put a little more sugar in, it's okay. But that's the first step, is we need to mix. A little bit of that water's overflowing, but hey, no biggie, no biggie. Now, having the 1-to-1 ratio is going to encourage brood rearing. That's what I'm hoping to have, is to build up my hives in the spring. Probably in about 3 weeks, I'm going to put on some supers, so then I'll stop feeding. But the next 3 weeks, I'm going to try to feed as much as my bees want that feed, okay? If they're not taking it, then I'm not going to give them feed, because I'm just wasting my time, right? But I'm going to give them 3 weeks to take in this free sugar, and then we can, sorry, I had a bee land on me. And then we can start building up our supers for honey flow in about 3 weeks or so. So I have never used this product before, Honeybee Healthy, so I can't really recommend it because I've never used it. I've been a beekeeper for about 10 years. I do some spring feeding, but I usually do more fall feeding. So that's why I'm interested to try to focus on my spring feeding more this year than I ever have before. Honeybee Healthy though is basically a lot of essential oils, mainly I think lemongrass and spearmint oil. There's a little bit of sugar in here, but it's mainly those two essential oils. So I guess not a lot of essential oils. And this is basically supposed to be a feed stimulant that the bees are going to want to take the sugar water. And I will say, even though I haven't used this before, I have fed quite a bit, and sometimes the bees just don't take it. So even though I haven't used this before, I have 10 years of experience, 9.5 years, whatever. I think this is my 9th summer, maybe my 10th summer going into beekeeping. But I have those 9 years of not using this that I'm going to compare this to. So this was pricey. This was about $35. So that's a little bit pricey if you ask me for 16 ounces. And for every gallon, you need 4 to 8 teaspoons. So I'm going to go ahead and add this in. But first, we're going to dump out a little bit of the water. And we got to mix our sugar, right? So actually, there's not much mixing to do. Most of this sugar water has dissolved. That's the nice thing about a 1-to-1 ratio, is most of that sugar dissolves straight in. I don't have a teaspoon on me, but we're gonna just estimate here. This says 4 to 8 teaspoons. I'm gonna go towards more of the 4 teaspoons. I'm gonna assume that that one of these is 2 teaspoons. Oh, it's actually kind of thick. Okay, we got 1, 2. This is interesting, actually. 3. Wow, it smells good. I didn't expect it to be so thick, actually. Check it out. Bloop. So it's definitely not what I was expecting. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So again, I'll do a quick mix, but it seems like it's pretty well dissolved and mixed. And next step is we're going to throw on our hive feeders. I'm not really doing an inspection. I just inspected a couple days ago. I do have some packages, so I may look at those queen cages, see if they've been released, but it's only been like 3 days since I installed them, so probably not. But the main goal is to feed every hive to hopefully lower robbing this time of year, because there's not too much blooming. I'm looking around again. The Bradford pear is blooming. I got 2 fruit trees that are blooming, and that's really it. There's some dandelions, and that's kind of all the bees have right now. So feeding to me is going to be important to hopefully build up these hives in the next 3 weeks. So I'm not really using my smoker because I'm not really doing inspections. I'm just going to pop these tops, add my feeder, add the nutrients, the sugar water with a Honeybee Healthy, and then we'll be good. So this hive is looking nice, Again, we're not going to bother them. We're just putting on our feeder. I always try not to hurt any bees, but sometimes that happens, but try our best. Now this is about 50 pounds here. Again, we got a couple bees that always fall in. I try to get them out as best I can. Try to save the bees because they're going to make me honey one day. I will say this, that I can smell that honeybee healthy. And I mean, it smells pretty good, this honeybee healthy. And if I were a bee, I'd be like, I may want to try that. Okay, so we got our first hive. We got one hive done, one hive done. So if you're wondering what kind of feeders I use, just these plastic topped feeders here. There's some you can get that go inside the hive. That to me, takes up a frame or 2 frames sometimes. So that takes up space that my queen could lay in. There's also front feeders, and I feel like those encourage robbing. So I've been using these for really ever since I started beekeeping. But what a potential problem with these is I've noticed since they've gotten older, they start to warp a little bit because they are made out of plastic. This hive here is kind of a crazy hive right now, so I have to feed it a little bit differently. There's a bunch of comb going crazy. That's why it looks a little bit different. Okay. 2 hives down, moving on. Okay, folks, that wasn't too bad. It only took me about 15 minutes to feed my 10 hives. I was 1 feeder short, so I think I have another one in my bee shed, hopefully. If not, I may go buy another one so that I feed them all at the same time. But that's okay. I'm going to get that tomorrow. I really am curious to see if that honeybee healthy works or not. I'm not a bee, but I feel like if I were a bee, that would, it smells pretty good. It's just lemongrass and spearmint oil. But I can definitely tell that there's a big difference by adding that. It was expensive, but if it helps boost my hives, then that is a good thing. So I'm going to check these in a couple days. I don't really like putting more than a gallon at a time in a feeder. There's some feeders you can put several gallons in, but I like to be checking on my bees more often than that. Make sure that nothing's happened with that sugar water. Also, I don't want to encourage too much robbing. So if you enjoyed this video, tell me what you think. And if you're a beekeeper or thinking about beekeeping, it's a great pastime. I make a little bit of money, a couple thousand in the summer maybe, and it's fun, it's relaxing, but also sometimes nerve-wracking.